But I first wanted to talk, if I might, to do with the mask of anonymity that has again descended upon a prominent New Zealander. Now, Josh, if I say to the word prominent New Zealander to you, what do you immediately think?
Well, someone like Sir Edmund Hillary, I would have said.
Oh, so that prominent. Okay,
That's how I'd go. That's what I
someone
think.
who's
Yeah,
dead and on the banknote.
yeah. That's
Okay.
where my mind goes, anyway.
All right, a prominent New Zealander. Okay, no, fair enough. All right, Kiri Te Kanama type person. You know,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that sort of Pantheon A star, Sir Peter Jackson, someone like that. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. That's what comes to mind for me, anyway. But
Okay. Yes, I think they use the word relative. Anyhow, a prominent New Zealander is currently facing criminal charges in the Wellington District Court. Category 3 charges. We talked about it last week, anyhow, what the Category 3 charges are. They're short of rape or murder or in the Category 4 charges, but they can still injure you, put you in prison if you're on Category 3. But that mask of anonymity has attended that particular prominent New Zealander as their lawyer has successfully applied and got name suppression for them. Now, we all know how this game plays, don't we? And the game plays like this. That if the prominent New Zealander is denied name suppression in the district court, they then have their name doesn't get immediately known. Their lawyer then goes to the High Court, and the High Court says no, and then it goes to the Court of Appeal, and presumably it can and has done in the past with prominent and rich individuals in this country, no names A. James Wallace, gone all the way to the Supreme Court, where finally, after months and months, years in some cases, of name suppression being sought, obtained, and the concept of open justice being frequently denied, their name is known. And Sir James Wallace, who now is just James in actual fact because he was fiddling around with men for most of his life and finally got imprisoned. He was still fighting name suppression after he'd been to prison, for example. I'll tell you that. But you see, James Wallace then, and the loss of his knighthood, made even more prominent in an actual fact by his desire and bid not to be known for the crimes that he'd committed. All right. Well, surely that's the case of the prominent New Zealander who will now face the same mask of anonymity in the courts. And it's the suppression and the mystery of the suppression and who's this prominent New Zealander that will ensure that it provokes our thoughts and awareness of this case for, well, days, weeks, months to come. I have talked to you in the past about, and listen, and here's the issue. Caleb Clark, who many of us think, including me, didn't really get the full extent of justice applied to him for a stupid crime at the end of the day. The current All Black, isn't it? See if he's named in the All Black team today. It's been named at about 11:15, I think, Josh. We've got to keep an eye on that today. Caleb Clark gets humiliated. I mean, there's the sort of compensation for all this because of his prominence in society. And we all know that in the scheme of things, that even though we might say, well, he got off with a wet bus ticket, well, he got off with the discharge without conviction, for God's sake. The reality is that he has suffered the slings and arrows of most outraged public opinion. And ta-da. But the courts in this country in my lifetime, it's happened in my lifetime, have now granted name suppression as an almost automatic response to anybody who appears there, irregardless of their status or background. In this particular case, we know it's a prominent New Zealander. But can I just say to the courts, it is destructive of the principle of open justice in this country, the principle that all individuals, regardless of social status and riches and position and rank in our society, should be treated the same. And so there will be some poor pleb who's committed the same crimes or alleged crimes as the prominent New Zealander, whose name will be known. They won't probably receive as much media attention for two reasons. One, the media don't seem to report the courts anymore, unless it is a particularly sensational case. But two, they will at least have their name known, and it will be made public and published and available to anybody who wishes to go and search for that information. Anonymity is something that the courts have encouraged. I mean, I'd like to say I don't blame this prominent New Zealander for having the cloak of suppression applied to them, because they have been encouraged by decades now of judges, prepared essentially to shield some of the worst of our criminals in society from not simply public opprobrium, but from the knowledge of having committed their crimes as well. We have got to the stage now where suppression is so routine, as I've said, that the principle of open justice is now, well, strafed and dying somewhere in a desert, just because of not New Zealand defence lawyers, but of New Zealand judges who, at their best pooh-bah status, and dear God, so many of them meet that particular title, and the way in which they conduct themselves in their courtrooms, but with their best pooh-bah status, have decided that suppression can be granted almost automatically these days for anything from the most heinous crime, for example, infanticide, and I'll come to that in just a second, right through until the most prosaic and stupid of shoplifting offences. But there you go. It annoys me. It is something that our society has evolved into at a time that we should be becoming more open, more clear, more democratic. Our decision-making processes should be becoming transparent, honest, and always open to the sunshine and the sunlight of awareness. We have many other institutions, local government, central government, government departments, and our courts heading in the opposite direction. And in this particular case, justice not only not being observed, but in many cases denied as a consequence. Those are my thoughts this morning on that issue. I'd be interested in yours as well. 0800 33 22 83, text 5050. Now, coming up yesterday, you would note that, no, I'll carry on just on the suppression concept at the moment. Because suppression lapsed yesterday in the case of a South Auckland homicide. Well, in actual fact, it was an appalling story of an Indian man. I assume he's Indian because his name is Mukesh Prasad. Mukesh Prasad. It doesn't sound like a New Zealand name. Certainly doesn't sound like a Maori name. Doesn't sound like a Pacific Island name. Doesn't sound like a British name. Mukesh Prasad, I'm assuming, is of Indian descent. Anyhow, his name suppression lapsed yesterday because he had killed, and I don't think there's any question that he's killed, his 5-year-old daughter, a little girl called Tuisi Amola. He was 37 years of age, and he arrived and was arrested in January after arriving at a police station and essentially handing himself in, and there in the back seat, the most tragic of views, was his dead 5-year-old daughter, who he had smothered to death. Now, in this particular case, he had name suppression up until yesterday. Now, he did it. There was no question he did it. They've entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. So it's a concession that he did kill his 5-year-old daughter. It's just that there are apparently extenuating circumstances which his defence lawyer is going to plead, presumably at some time. But from January until yesterday, he had name suppression for an offence which he had clearly done and for which he was charged. Meanwhile, at the same time, yesterday we also know that a dead baby, and this is another horrific story, a dead baby was found in an Auckland wheelie bin. A newborn baby's body was found in the Auckland suburb of Freeman's Bay. And the police discovered that child yesterday, and it's an horrific story. Obviously, a child was born. Their mother, or its mother, we don't know the gender of the child, decided to dispose of that body immediately and placed it in a wheelie bin. She has, I have to say, been found. So the police presumably have found that particular woman after her most heinous of acts. But of course, her name is suppressed as well. And the really worrying thing is that her name will continue to be suppressed even when she is inevitably found guilty of infanticide. You see, we have a particular view in this country, and I've argued this for a long time. We know that child murder in this country is a national shame. It is a intrinsically New Zealand scandal. When you place our particular child homicides against any other countries or country in the world, particularly those, I have to say, where these sorts of statistics are gathered, so I guess that's mostly so-called civilized Western society. New Zealand is right up there. I think we're in the top 2 or 3 in the world for killing children. And no one, not one political party in my lifetime, and that's quite a lifetime now, I have to say, has ever attempted to address this national scandal. No bureaucrats, no policymakers, no politicians, no political parties have gone full tit on what is New Zealand's greatest national scandal, the endangerment on a regular and ongoing basis of our children. No, sorry, did I say endangerment? No, I'm not going to use that euphemistic word. The killing of our children by a whole series of people who generally fit the same criteria. But the interesting case about the infanticide is that you might even argue that the law encourages you to kill your children. Infanticide is regarded by the Crimes Act as not being quite as bad as child murder. I know, it's an absurdity. But the suggestion is that if a mother disposes of, kills, in this particular case it seems quite clear, I'm sure it wouldn't have been stillborn, but this child was dumped in the wheelie bin, they will be charged, if they're charged, with infanticide. Their name will be suppressed, and it will be suppressed even after they're found guilty of infanticide. And infanticide is not as bad as child murder, just so that you know. If you are the mother, you can frequently kill as happens in this country on too often an occasion, you can kill your child with almost impunity, because you'll be charged with infanticide, you'll go through the court process, you won't be named, and you will walk free, in the main, from a New Zealand court. Because we don't regard infanticide, the killing of children just born, as badly as we would regard killing a 2 or 3, a 5-year-old, or a 15-year-old for that matter. It's an absurdity in the law. It's a ridiculous and archaic view that mothers who kill their children, and it's so Victorian really, when you think about it. It's so 19th century British really, and that's why infanticide's on the books. It's this idea that no mother in her right mind would kill her child. Now we know in the 21st century that there are some women who are just born evil, end of story, who commit evil acts through the fact that they don't believe that the normal laws of humanity appear or apply to them. All right? So we now know that in the 21st century. But there's still this 19th century concept that a woman that kills her child must be mentally ill, can't possibly be evil, can't possibly have decided to eradicate an embarrassment to their life or a hindrance to their lifestyle, and has made, from their point of view, a quite rational choice to kill as a consequence. So I'm just saying, where it's almost an encouragement to child murder in this country, infanticide, and it is an appalling reflection on our lack of respect for life in this country and for small children who are born, the most vulnerable, the most important people in our community, in our lives. Children are way more important than adults. Children have potential to be better than the adults that created them. They have the potential to develop into something that is going to contribute in a positive and reinforcing way to our community and our society, but they are being denied a life by the illegal and by the evil actions of adults who frankly don't deserve to be parents, either fathers or mothers, and by their actions have demonstrated thus. Why we then let those people then walk free amongst us to have more children is just an absurdity. But anyhow, there's those 3 issues this morning, and around anonymity, and I just have to say that yet again, everybody turns away. Oh, how dreadful, there's a baby in a bin. Oh, oh gosh, look, there's a lot of rain falling in Nelson, isn't there? Oh, poor people. poor people. Mm. See what I mean?